Okay, Doug, if you can get close to these mics, it's better. We have to pretend that it's evening.
Yeah. Okay. We're on the air, folks.
Good evening. You're listening to WHFS, Bethesda, Maryland. My name's Thomas, and joining us tonight in the studio are two members of the Kinks, Mick Avory and Jim Rodford. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Fine. Great.
Welcome to Bethesda. And
nice to be here.
Great. You've been to Washington before?
Yeah, several times.
Really?
Last time was last year. We played at the Warner Theatre, which is the theatre we're playing at.
Right, you'll be down at the
Warner.
We didn't,
sorry.
We're going to edit a lot of this, so don't worry.
Yeah.
You know, if you flub, we'll start again. Welcome to Bethesda, and you're going to be playing down at the Warner Theatre tonight.
That's right, yes.
For how many shows?
Just the one show.
One show. When you think of the Kinks, you think of longevity. I mean, it's a band that has been together and for a long time. And how do you guys do it? I mean, what do you think the chemistry is what makes you stay together? The chemistry of the members of the band? Or?
Well, basically, I think the roots of the band are Ray and Dave Davies, who are brothers, of course, and we've formed together a band that came along with the Stones and the Beatles and around that era, and made a lot of success with the rest of British bands, and Ray's such a prolific writer, and also Dave writes as well, and if you've got something there to offer new all the time, it keeps going. If you can progress as a band, and everyone feels that it's worthwhile carrying on. But if you just stagnate, then I think you tend to fall into obscurity and the enthusiasm goes.
But that's something unique about the Kinks. They have weathered the storm. You've gone through a lot of eras, the 60s, and now we're into the 70s. But it's just great that you can do that.
I think from an outsider's point of view, I've known them a long time, but I've only just joined. A lot of it, that is to do with the fact that the two brothers are the crux of the band, and Mick, there from the beginning. But when you've got that close relationship of brothers, it gives the band more stability, I think, and they've both got the same aim. But Mick's been there also from the beginning, so there's three of them that have been the nucleus all that time.
Really? You have a brand new album out on Arista, your second album for Arista, called Misfits.
Yep.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about what went into making it?
Basically, it's a theme about groups themselves, and everyone's sort of there doing the same job to get the same thing achieved, musically, but everyone's really different from each other. You get people with different hang-ups and different sort of diverse ideas, and I think really that's quite a description of the type of people that you see in a band. They're all completely different, really, but they're all misfit, but all got to get together to achieve the same thing. And that has different aspects of being different and being a misfit. And some of the songs describe some of the characters you might meet, or some of the circumstances under which they work. Like Rock and Roll Fantasies, about a guy that, a band that don't make it, they get up to a certain level and then it all falls apart, and it just describes how the feeling is.
Do you have a favorite on here, Mick? A favorite song on the album?
Well, personally, I like Rock and Roll Fantasy and Permanent Waves. That's a good number.
How about you?
Yes, I like Rock and Roll Fantasy a lot as well, but I like Get Up. I think that's getting back to how I thought the Kinks should have carried on a bit more through the middle period.
Really?
The aggression and everything,
Well, let's listen to a few things off of it, Misfits by the Kinks, and then we'll come back and chat some more, okay?
Right.
Okay, that's our break. We're back. You're listening to WHFS, Bethesda, Maryland, and if you just tuned in, we're speaking with two members of the Kinks, Mick Avory and Jim Rodford. And I hope you'll excuse my Bethesda accent. I hope I got that right. Jim was involved with the band Argent for a
that's
while.
Right, yeah.
When were you in that band?
Well, it's a long story. Rod Argent and myself are cousins, and we used to sort of jam together as kids. And I didn't turn professional musically until about '64, which is when I first met the Kinks on their first British tour. And Rod was just forming the Zombies. And he went through the '60s with the Zombies. I went through the '60s with the Mike Cotton Sound, Mike actually joined the band, joined the Kinks later on with all the horns. John Beecham and Nick Newell, they were all part of the Mike Cotton Sound. When it came to '69, Rod and I decided we would actually get this band together that we'd always talked about, and that was Argent. That was formed in '69. We went right through till 1975 as Argent. Then we packed up. So I was with them from the beginning to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I formed the band with Rod, really.
Right. The last thing that I saw him working on was an album with Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Variations, Paganini.
Classical
yeah,
type package.
that's it.
Very nice album.
Yes, it did well in Britain. I think it did reasonably well here.
Mm-hmm. So Mick, you've been the heartbeat for the band for how many years? Going back to the Ravens, I understand, when the Kinks were the Ravens, right?
Well, not quite that long ago, but
No?
it's about 14 years ago.
14
But
years.
they only just adopted the name Kinks when I joined them. And
How did you guys come up with the name the Kinks?
well, they already had the name Kinks, but I understand that it really stemmed from the way they used to dress, Ray, Dave and Pete Quaife at the time as the bass player. And they didn't sort of dress in a sort of recognised, conformed manner, and they had capes and funny hats and boots.
And the
And they
riding
sort of-
jackets, of course.
Yeah,
Which
it
were
was
very different for the
that
time.
type of thing, And it was sort of like old English Dickens character things we got associated with them. And the word kink was associated with that sort of being a bit different and nonconformist, so in your appearance anyway. And they used to sort of refer to us as kinky. And I think Dave picked the word up first, and he thought, kinks, we're kinks, and it gradually got sort of used and for the name of the band.
And that's where it came from.
And I thought it's got more relevance than Ravens, and it didn't look like Ravens at all.
Just dropped the Ravens. And
I think it took on more relevance too. Also, when you really got me came out, it was really so different as a single. It was really like the beginning of heavy metal sounds, really.
really,
But it gave that Kinks title an even broader meaning, So,
Mm-hmm.
and also I think it's a timeless title. It's kept way out. It's not in fashion or out of fashion. It just stays as a word that sounds good.
What do you guys think of the new wave music of the 70s? Are you impressed with any of it? Because, you guys were, you evolved. That was what it all started out as.
To me, they sound just like the Kinks were like a new wave band at the time when they happened. They were just like some of the punk bands now, aggressive, rebellious, different. Most of it was up tempo, riffy stuff, and that's what the punks are doing now. It's just a full cycle thing. I think Britain was ready for it, and I'm sure the young kids over here are ready for unpretentious, straight ahead music. That's really what it is. There's a lot of rubbish involved with it, but there's some good ones, some good bands.
Yeah. Well, I think the music today, like the new wave music, it's stagnant. I think they're going back to the 50s. You see a lot of remade songs in people's
it is a
repertoires.
recycle
Yeah.
There's nothing new about
situation.
it at all.
But when you think of the Kinks, like I think of that first record, You Really Got Me. You did a Bo Diddley tune on there.
Yeah.
And you guys must have roots with the blues. Sonny Boy Williamson.
Yeah,
And
Ray does especially.
Yeah, I think the Davies brothers were really blues rooted, because they used to play in old blues bands in and around London, and they always liked, their idols were people like Big Bill Broonzy and Lead Belly and all that.
Does Ray still play the harp?
Well, I've been trying to get onto it since I've joined to get it back out again.
Really?
But I don't know if he will or not. It's funny, we've been trying a few different things on this tour, haven't we?
Yeah, he does actually in some of the numbers we used to do on stage until quite recently. But
What was that song you
things
did
we
on?
have to do predominantly a lot of our new stuff, you know. So, and if that doesn't include harp, then he's not got the chance to play it. Sorry, Jim.
I was saying, what was that tune that you used to do on that tour in '64, where Ray used to play harp? You did Louie Louie, Really Got Me All Day and All of the Night.
Got Love If You Want It.
Got Love If You Want It, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great song. Got
Yeah, I
Love
used
If
to
You
like
Want
doing
It.
that.
They used to open the set with Louie Louie. I was on that tour, you know, it was really exciting. Every tune was like that, just chunky and riffy.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to some old Kinks
Yeah.
material and then come back and talk some more. Okay, this is our next break.
Quick.
Really? We're back. You're listening to WHFS, Bethesda, Maryland, and we're speaking with Mick Avory and Jim Rodford, the Kinks, who are in concert tonight down at the Warner Theater for one show. On the Sleepwalker album, that was sort of a neat concept. How'd you come up with that? Who came up with that?
That's usually the ideas are conceived by Ray, you know, because he writes all the stuff. But he's it's one of those theme things that he likes to write along a theme as opposed to just writing separate songs. But I think perhaps that one was less a theme than any of the ones before it. You know, like when we used to do all the concept albums and Preservation and Schoolboys in Disgrace and Soap Opera. They were, you know, telling a story along the theme, but we tried to get away from that, and we went back to the sort of more or less separate songs. You know? But the relevance of Sleepwalker, I don't really know what the relevance is. I don't know how the name came about now.
My favorite one on there is Life Goes On. The
Good song.
Suicide.
I think basically we called it because it, you know, they considered it one of the strongest tracks, and it was a fairly strong title.
Yeah,
I
as an
don't think there's
outsider,
any deep sort of meaning.
I couldn't really see a great connection between each track because I wasn't involved with that album. But as I think Mick said, it's just separate songs really, without any great contact between them.
Right. You guys have been out on the road for how long on this tour?
Oh, only about 2 weeks on this tour.
Yeah. You must have a lot of stamina because, as we mentioned earlier, you've been through Washington in the last couple of years at least 3 times that I know of. And there must be something that I guess being in rock and roll music must just get your energy up for going on the road. Like a lot of musicians don't like to go on the road.
Yeah.
But you guys must really love it.
Yeah, it's good once you've made a start. I mean, the initial thing, preparation sort of period, and getting all the rehearsals together and that, and you've got in mind that you've got to go away in 2 weeks' time, and you've got a lot of things to do at home and loose ends to tie up, and so it can be a bit disrupting, you know. But once you've made the initial start and you've got a couple of gigs behind you, you get into it. But the worst part about it really is that you're never in one place long enough, you know. You're hopping around too much. Like a place like Washington, you could easily stay for a week or 2 weeks.
Have a good look round.
Have a good look round, and you could enjoy it more then. But when it's got to be a quick overnight sensation, that's why pop musicians do silly off the wall things. I think throw televisions out of hotel rooms.
You like Washington?
Yeah,
what
I
you've
do.
seen?
Yeah, it's a lovely city.
I was here a few times with Argent. I did get a chance to have a look round. I didn't actually tour the Pentagon or anything, but I had a good look round the city. I think, I like it.
Yeah.
Apart from the climate, which seems a bit changeable at the moment.
All the music lovers are very receptive here in Washington to all kinds of music. I mean, this station can attest to that, just the fact that we play so much of a variety of music. So where do you guys go from here after you leave Washington? Philly?
Philadelphia.
Yeah. Then we go to, I think it's Chicago, Milwaukee, Minneapolis. Then across to the West Coast. San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, Medford, LA. 3 days in LA.
Right. Are you based in England? You're all living in England?
Yeah, in and around London.
And you do
Mainly
most of your
North
recording
London.
there?
Yeah, we got the Kinks own a studio in North London
Conk?
called Conk.
Conk?
So all our stuff's recorded there at the present time.
Yeah. Ray must really be a technical genius, because I know he produces, he writes, he plays. That's incredible.
He's got a very broad vision, definitely musical vision. He understands and knows what he wants in most of the departments, not just in the musical sense, but the technical sense as well.
I know, because I can remember hearing stories of other musicians seeking him out to produce them, like the Turtles back in the late 60s. Right. I remember that. And I think he was working with Tom Robinson.
Yeah, he was,
at one point.
until he left the band called Cafe Society, and now he's got his own band, of course. And that's when the break came.
Yeah. But I mean, he encompasses every aspect of the music industry by being producer and musician.
And actor, of course, he's doing...
Yeah, he likes to be involved with everything.
Yeah.
What's that thing he's doing next month? Some acting thing in London?
Yeah, they're putting on Preservation with actors and other musicians. I believe it's going to run for a week at least.
Pardon me, how is radio in England? Do you have FM?
Oh, it's very, very lacking. It's silly. I mean, Radio 1, you've heard all these stories probably from other British musicians, but Radio 1 is complete monopoly. And it's very wet, sort of middle of the road, no imagination, musical policy. There are other local stations, but they aren't really as powerful and as wide-ranging as yours in this country. So it's a monopoly. If you haven't made it in London and you don't get the radio play on Radio 1 and get the 2 or 3 TV shows that there are, then you've got no chance in England with new bands. It's very stifling.
Are there still shows like Top of the Pops?
Oh yeah, still running.
They give people
it's it's just the same as ever.
Well, that's the only way to get anything exposed in England, is to go on Top of the Pops, which you don't get a shot at unless you already made it anyway. Yeah.
Or
already
you're near the top 50.
The top 50.
That's a stalemate
vicious.
situation.
I think when you guys did the Lola album, you cynically pointed out what the Tops of the Pops were all about in the record, in the song itself. Which reminds me, the name of the album was called what? Lola versus the Power Man and the Money Go Round.
Yeah.
Part 1. Is there going to be another part to it?
Perhaps there was at the time. That's why we called it Part 1. But
will we ever see Part 2?
Part 2 never came.
That seems to be part of Ray's mind. He likes to tease people that way.
Yeah, it could have,
probably never ever intended a Part 2.
Might have been a tease, or it might have been an idea that we were going to do a Part 2, and it got overlooked, or another idea came along. I'm
just asking for my own curiosity. Like, I'm going to edit a lot of this nonsense. Having you here is really a pleasure, because
nice so
many questions I want to ask you. As we were talking about earlier, the new album Misfits. We should play something from it, and then come back and talk some more. Just got to drop that in,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is another break. Let's see. What we've got. The album Arthur, which I guess originally was going to be a play.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, I've only just joined.
Right. We should.
So I mean, I know the albums and known them for a long time, but Mick knows all the questions and answers on the albums.
Did that ever? Did you ever make a full-scale production out of Arthur, like in Britain?
No, it never really got off the ground, because Ray was writing a script with a guy called Julian Mitchell in England, and it went over the budget in the end. It was going to be made as a television film, I believe, first, and it just didn't materialise. So that got phased out, and I particularly liked that album up until that point. I thought it was one of the best things we'd done, and plus it was one of the first concept things that had been known. I think Village Green was like the first idea that Ray had got, and of course that's really much the same as Preservation. When we put Preservation on, it's a similar story. So we did in fact do that as a rock play at least.
Mm-hmm. Off the top of your head, Mick, how many albums would you say the Kinks have done? Just guessing.
Off the top of my head, I'd say about 28.
28.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. I mean, really, that band could stay together.
Don't ask me to name them all in
No.
sequence or anything.
That's remarkable.
Because a lot of those would be compilations, I suppose, wouldn't they? A lot of that.
No, it's without the compilations,
isn't it?
I think we've done well over 20, and those without ones being compiled. With the compilations, it must be getting on for 40, isn't it?
On your new album, Misfits, or newest album, Dave wrote a song, which he hasn't done that I know of for quite a while.
Trust Your Heart.
Trust Your Heart, right. How did that come about?
Mick?
Well, since the days of the concept albums, we've been trying to make moves to get back to the basic group again, you know. And you know, we've had one or two problems with you know, vocally. We wanted to be stronger vocally, and we had the aftermath of what we were doing on stage, the rock plays. And we used to carry the two lady singers up until last year, and which helped out vocally and gave us strength, you know. So, but still, we'd, you know, rather do it in the context of the band, you know. So, you know, when the other two chaps left that didn't sing, and John and Andy, you know, we made sure we got two guys that could, and they've blended in very well. And I think that particularly has given us a new strength. So, getting back to Dave's thing, is that he got an opportunity, more of an opportunity now than probably for the last 4 or 5 years to write a song and put some of his own stuff on the Kinks album, as he used to in the old days. So it's got back to that and given him a chance of you know, showing what he can do.
How about you, Jim? Do you think you'll be writing in the future?
Oh no, I don't think so. Not for the Kinks. I do write songs. I wrote a couple for Argent on albums, and my recent band Phoenix, I had a couple on those albums. But no, this is the Davies brothers band, and Mick, and the whole thing is their concept. I wouldn't presume that I'd write anything for them. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to, but I just, you know, it wouldn't be right, I don't think.
How about you, Mick? You write at all?
No, well, the thing is with drummers, I think they're basically sort of more involved with rhythmic things, and they're not usually classified as the ultimate sort of melody maker.
I guess
they tend not to write so much, you know. I mean, you get the odd one. You get the odd one where they, you know, if they play another instrument, but if they're just solely a drummer, I think they tend not to write. And me, certainly, I'm not. I think it's a gift you've either got or you haven't got.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, it's best not to bother. Let someone do it who's good at it.
I can dig that, and Ray is such a genius at writing. He writes satires. He's written in a form of protest. He's written cynically.
Oh yeah, see, some people have got the gift of writing and others haven't. I think one of the bad things that came out of the late 60s Beatles explosion and the fact that they wrote their own material was a new thing, and because Ray was writing his, people like Rod Argent were writing within the group, but the Beatles really gave most musicians the thought that they could, just because they could play an instrument, they could write songs. Well, I think out of that came a lot of rubbish. A lot of musicians, just because they could play, were writing stuff, and all these albums were coming out with their own material on, and they were weak, I thought. I think you can get great musicians, people like Oscar Peterson. They're not great songwriters. They can't write great songs, but they're great musicians. And there's one or the other. There's very few that can be great musicians and great songwriters, I think. But people like Randy Newman, he's not a great musician, but he's a really good songwriter.
I know, and he's just coming into his own, like this year with Short People. Now that we're talking about musicians, let's talk about like some of your early influences. Who influenced you?
Well, I think I was listening from when it first all happened and playing really as well. But looking back that far, I think Chuck Berry was my biggest first influence. And the general American music, pop, rock and roll scene that was happening, but Chuck Berry in particular. Then through to the 60s and the Tamla Motown and Atlantic soul thing really got me off. And now I'm more into the jazz rock thing as well, but I've still got my roots firmly in rock and roll. I just listen to everything really.
How about you, Mick? What drummers influenced you?
Well, when you think back, you go through various types of different drummers that were popular at the time. You know, in the old days, I used to like the old jazz drummers because there weren't any well-known rock and roll ones. You know, we used to pick up on people
Buddy
like
Rich, Gene,
Kubrick. Art Blakey, and people of this nature.
Showing your age now, Mick.
Well, I'm not quite as old as him.
Hey man, it's like I said earlier, it's the stamina that you guys have. You've outlasted the Beatles, and I think it's the Kinks and the Stones that keep us going. Really?
There's the Who, but
them too.
There's a new album by the Who, by the way, because Rod Argent did that last year. I don't know when it's coming out.
Link Ray comes by. He lives in this area, and he's friends with Pete Townsend, and he's like in his late 40s.
Right.
And he says he gives Pete inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you guys, I remember him when I was a little kid.
Yeah, Link Ray,
Yeah, but he'll come by here and he's looking good. He makes you really get into rock and roll.
Right.
Just his fortitude to keep going and playing.
Is he an Indian?
I believe he is, yeah. He's got an album out now with this guy named Robert Gordon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard it. They
I
do
haven't heard it, but
rockabilly, that kind of stuff. And Gordon was in the Tough Darts, which was part of that new wave, CBGB, new wave trend. And he quit that band, and he's singing like early Elvis now.
Yeah.
It's great. Maybe can get you an album or something.
Yeah, they toured Europe recently, didn't they?
That's what I understand, yeah. But, I mean, it's cats like that. They keep you young at heart, and he always says you're as young as you feel. And,
right.
And that's true. So don't worry about showing your age. Really. What do you think
with the makeup
of electric drums these days?
Electric drums.
Linda Ronstadt drums. You know.
Yeah, actually, someone asked Buddy Rich this question on television the other day.
Did they?
But I'll give a different answer to what he said.
Okay. A bit obscene.
He should probably tell me to go out. No, I think they're good in the studio, particularly something like that. If you can integrate it into a certain thing or a certain song, you know, and then it can fit and give a nice effect. But as something that's going to take over from acoustic drums, I don't think they will. You know? But as an added accessory, I think it'd be quite good. It's a good idea.
You haven't used them though.
I haven't used them. No, I've read about the Sin drums, and I believe out of all the electrical appliances you can get for drums, I think they'd possibly be the best. Because they are a good sound apparently. But a lot of them's got a little. They sound like those little tennis machines in the amusement arcades, sort of plip plop sounding.
Yeah.
I've tried a few out. People have come around and demonstrated them. I haven't been impressed, but something with a bit of depth to it and a broader sound, it could well enhance what you're doing.
Really. In concert now, in 1978, what kind of material are you guys covering when you play? I mean, you go back to the 60s.
Yeah, it's been limited a bit by the fact that Gordon and myself only came in a month ago, just over a month ago. We had the call, so we couldn't learn all the Kinks repertoire in 2 or 3 weeks. So it turned out to be old and new. There's quite a few oldies. You really got me All Down All the Night, Waterloo Sunset, Dedicated Follower. Oh, a lot of those early ones. And then there's quite a few from Sleepwalker, and quite a few from, a lot from Misfits. And 1 or 2 in between, like Lola and Celluloid Heroes. Mm-hmm. So it's a fair, broad cross-section between the nostalgia and the new stuff. There's not too much from Preservation and those sort of things.
The song Black Messiah, I get a real kick out of. That's different for y'all doing a reggae
Right, yeah, we haven't got that one together for stage yet. We rehearsed it, but it means we haven't actually done it yet. But,
And Hay Fever.
Yeah, we do that.
Another good song. I like that.
yeah.
It's so funny. You can identify with it.
It's not
Right.
funny if you got it and you got to sing it.
Really. So, you guys are still at it. That's
Yeah.
terrific.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm gonna have to get another tape real quick anyway. 'Cause it's running out. Change it. Anything that you would like to talk about? Okay, we're back. This is WHFS Bethesda, Maryland, and we're speaking with Mick Avory and Jim Rodford of the Kinks, who are down at the Warner Theater tonight for one show. Gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for coming by
Been a pleasure, Tom.
Pleasure.
and talking with us, and maybe next time you get through Washington, you'll come up and spin some records,
Yeah.
play
love to.
disc jockey,
Good.
and possibly coax Ray to come up.
Yeah,
And,
if it's in the same city.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I was in New York at this present time.
Yeah.
I hope he's on his
back.
way.
Yeah, I hope he's caught the flight.
What does he think of FM radio?
Oh.
The media and...
I think he's really impressed with the way it's run over here.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got so much, choice. You can run along the dial at night and hear your record within a few minutes,
Mm-hmm. He seems to avoid the press and the media for some reason, except
no.
Mike Douglas.
He's such a nice guy to talk to.
Yeah. Well, Ringo went on there too, so I guess there must be something about him.
No, I wouldn't say Ray avoids the press, and particularly not now. He might have had a spate a few years ago where he wasn't into it. But
I think of
I think
someone
now
like
it's
Ray,
necessary.
he's been asked the same questions for so many years, time after time, that you do get saturated with that. He probably went through a period where he just couldn't take any more of, no matter how well-meaning the interviewer was, the same sort of questions all the time. But he seems more amenable now, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's the wrong word, but more.
Well, he knows that it's a necessary thing to do, and people are interested in what he's got to say.
Right. Well, again, I'd like to wish you the best of luck with Misfits,
Thanks.
your new
Thanks a lot.
album, and good luck tonight down at the Warner Theater.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We got a lot of great stuff, man. It's just putting it together.
Yeah,
It's gonna
yeah,
be the job.
yeah.
Now, if I can get the IDs.
Well, you'd have to work all afternoon on that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, I feel like the picture on the album. Look at my eyes.
Yeah.
I went to bed at 8 o'clock this morning or something, I'll write these out so you can just read
Yeah,
them into
right,
the
yeah.
mic. And you guys can do something goofy at the end if you want. You can both do one and then you can do separate ones. But they're really neat. They're a gas. We've got a whole rack of them in there, like everybody from Zappa to George Harrison, identifying the radio station. You can read something off the bumper sticker if you want.
Homegrown radio,
Yeah.
WHFS.
Hello?
This is homegrown.
Nick. How's the Stones tour? Have you heard the Stones album, by the way?
No, we saw the cover yesterday, but
Yeah.
I haven't heard any tracks from it.
It's really neat, man. It's a killer. It's like they must have gone over their old stuff and redone it, because there's like country and rock and roll and disco.
Yeah.
It's like a complete variety.
Cross-section.
That's something that you guys steered away from, disco. You haven't
Yeah,
jumped
we
on that bandwagon.
Noticed that last night. Everyone's we went to a disco last night and everyone's jumping around the dance floor and enjoying themselves, and they put a Kinks record on and no, everyone sat down. I don't know if it's
Is disco?
No, the thing is, it just depends on what type of tempo it is. And some things are more danceable than others. But
No,
we've gone in for a lot of laid back things.
I think it's a
Not
pretty
really.
safe bet that the Kinks will never have any play any disco influenced music.
No, is it? Yeah. A lot of it stems from the way Ray writes words and
He tends to always be obtuse anyway, isn't
yeah. Sort of disco records are usually just a drum beat and the bass, really.
he? Yeah.
Is disco big in England?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, it was big there before anyway, I should think.
Whatever happened to the pubs? I guess that was a...
Oh, they're still there.
Mm.
There's still a reasonably good pub scene in Britain for bands.
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly healthy, but you can't earn any money in the pubs. I mean, they get £5 each a night for a performance, you know, which is what, $10.
Which was the same sort of 15 years ago.
So they had to really do it for nothing, basically.
Let's see. I hope I spell your name right. You know who you are.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think so. Might not tonight.
Yeah. If you give me an address or something, I'll send you a copy of this if you'd like it.
Yeah.
Wherever you are.
Mm. I can give you an address of the Conk office.
Okay. Because I sent Ray a Christmas card through Arista, but I don't know if he got it or not. You know, I just sent it to the...
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Oh, possibly
company.
they'd send it on.
Yeah. I'm just not here. Okay, it's 102.3 FM. You can... 102.3 FM. Okay, I'll just pass this to you. I hope you can read my writing. Anytime you're ready, just read it. And you can say something at the end, whatever comes to mind.
What's that? Bethesda.
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 Mm-hmm.
Oh, Bethesda, not
Bethesda.
Bethesda. Yeah. Bethesda, Maryland.
Bethesda, Maryland.
It's very hard when you're reading something like that, not just make yourself sound mid-Atlantic, you know, like you've got to keep your English accent, haven't you?
Yeah.
Bethesda. Here's another bumper sticker you can put on a guitar or something. Anytime
Okay,
you're ready.
yeah.
Just...
Hello, I'm Mick Avory, the Misfit, speaking from WHFS, Bethesda, Maryland, 102.3 FM.
Okay, what I didn't write down is you should say, you can do it again, say, hello, this is Mick Avory of the Kinks. I didn't write that in there, of the Kinks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Hello, I'm Mick Avory, Misfit of the Kinks. You're listening to WHFS FS.
What else?
Hello, I'm Mick Avory, Misfit of the Kinks. You're listening to WHFS, Bethesda, Maryland, 102.3 FM.
Would you do one for me, Mick? Would you say,
Yeah.
hello, this is Mick Avory of the Kinks. You're listening to Thomas on WHFS.
Yeah.
Do that.
Hello, this is Mick Avory of the Kinks. Listening
You're listening to
with.
Thomas.
Hello, I'm Mick Avory of the Kinks. You're listening to Thomas, WHFS, Bethesda, Maryland.
That's great.
No, me, right, so I do the same thing.
My writing must be terrible.
Hello, I'm Jim Rodford, the little misfit of the Kinks. You're listening to WHFS Bethesda, Maryland, 102.3 FM. Again?
Sure.
Hello, I'm Jim Rodford of the Kinks. You're listening to WHFS Bethesda, Maryland, 102.3 FM.
Would you do one for me? You're listening to Thomas.
Hello, I'm Jim Rodford of the Kinks. You're listening to Thomas of WHFS Bethesda, Maryland, 102.3 FM.
That's great. Would you do one for, let me think. Oh dear. Do one for Bob.
Just Bob.
You're listening to Bob on WHFS.
Hello, I'm Jim Rodford of the Kinks. You're listening to Bob on WHFS Bethesda, Maryland, 102.3 FM.
That's great. That'll help get your record
Great.
played throughout
Yeah.
the day.
Right.
Again, I really appreciate you coming by. I appreciate you bringing them by.
Great. Enjoyed that.
I'm sure you guys don't do any of these evil things, but, you know, I brought you some pot if you'd like to take it back with you. Smoke it somewhere, you know. I don't do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Nice of you.
And
the relaxed moment.
When you get a chance. It's pretty good stuff.
Thank you very much. Very
Sure.
nice.
Well,
Lost that quick. I'll take charge of it.
Oh, that was on tape as well. Oh,
Hey,
ditto.
like that.
That's incriminating.
Edit point.
Oh,
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thanks a lot.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ah,
Thanks.
let's give you the
Mick.
address, the office. Have you got a pen?
Oh yeah, really? See, I'm not here.
So you're not going to be able to make the concert?
I'm gonna make it. Can I get in?
You got some tickets.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go. I wouldn't miss it for you.
Great.
I'm a Yardbirds freak, Kinks freak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta be there. The one you did at Merriweather, I couldn't get a ticket to. I couldn't get into more.
Oh yeah, hey, they're quite nice places to play.
Do you like
I
that?
did another one, was it Pine Knob and Merriweather Post. That was a very similar sort of place. It's like a skiing resort.
Yeah. Do you guys like playing outdoor places more than when the weather's warm? And say again,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
now the sound's been sorted out so much. It's not so much of a problem. It used to be a problem getting the sound across, but now you've got such huge PA systems, etc. It comes over.
If you want to take that tea with you for your ride back, you're welcome to. This one.
Yeah.
Take it along. Okay, just send it to Conk Studios.
That's it.
Thank you.
And if you want to send round another Christmas card, you send an email to the Kinks then.
Okay.
And
I'll
we'll
send it
get
to Arista. Yeah, probably in the big mail bag or something.
Mhm.
But thank you.
All right.
But that's
Good luck
the
tonight.
personal
Thanks very
bit.
much.
How's the show doing? Selling well?
Yeah.
It's doing very well.
Very.
How's Charlie? Anybody heard of them? What
How did it
Yeah.
do?
I think they go down pretty well in most places.
Yeah.
Get the off.
I saw them in Norfolk like 3 months ago when they were down there. Yeah, it was like the second date on the tour. They were having a lot of sound trouble, and they were on for 20 minutes. They were like 4 bills on the act of 4. It's hard. Right.
But they've been here since February.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're good. They're a typical English band, you know, in the sort of
Nice
more
guys
like
to
an
get on
argent.
with.
I'll see
Nice
him
place.
tonight.
Yeah.
Sure. So
Cheers,
I'll
David.
stop by and poke my head back there
Yeah.
and say hello to you. tonight.
Okay.
Maybe
Right.
I'll bring you a little ice if you can do
Cheers.
that. You can do
Like
that.
the dentist.
Yeah, right. You must see the
Dentist,
dentist
yeah.
every day. All right? Because I know that's what I need to keep his eyes. Good luck. Thanks.